time, so like, why not drop
Yeah.
those bombs for a little bit? Let's rock it out.
So me and Ben discussed all week of how we was going to approach today. Uh, I don't know if Brad told you or not, but I do want to throw an asterisk out there that Governor Bill Lee said we're going to open back up May 1st, but they're going to give suggestions to us how they want us to go about that. So that's at least some positive news. And we'll get back into the gym probably. Maybe me and Brad's working on a plan of whatever they come out with now, but we've talked about it for the last 12 hours. And so we're going to roll out a plan as well when we get the parameters that we can stick with, and try to get the people back into the facility soon. So as soon as we can anyways. So that is a positive note. But for that barbell, Mac, I'd like to talk about it today. And we wanted to talk about maximizing the nervous system, and how we can use that little barbell and just some simple plyometrics or some dynamic movements to really tax our central nervous system like we would. When I say tax the central nervous system, that means it's a lot of motor recruitment. Everything encompasses in that movement. It's almost like a full body, plus with some hand-eye coordination, some foot-eye coordination. So we want to try to give you some tips and drills on that today. So the easiest one that I could come up with, I'm sure Ben's got a couple more, but the first one that always comes to mind is the back squat. You do 3 or 4 reps of a back squat with a barbell loaded, and then you move directly into a dynamic box jump or a broad jump, or my favorite from back in my football days is probably the eccentric to the box jump. So you're actually getting up on like a 10 to 12 inch box, jumping off it, and then rebounding up to a 24 or a 30 inch, whatever your skill set is. The height doesn't matter. It's actually the eccentric of loading and then coming undone that drives that movement to make it like what I would call a CNS movement. And it's just, it recruits a lot of nervous system to do those things. Plus it teaches us how to land, how to explode, how to rebound, to change direction quickly, just like an athlete needs to. So, I mean, you remember your first box jump when you're creeping up there and you're scared to death of your shins, and you're like, oh man, I don't know I don't know if I'm going to land it. And then all of a sudden you land your first box jump, and then you feel like an athlete at that moment. And you should, because you accomplished moving your body from one plane to another plane. I do have some video. Let me see if I can share it with you. And let me see. This is really getting technical for me, so y'all just bear with me. So let's go right here. And expand that, baby. Let's hit that. Everybody seeing this girl back squatting? All right. So she's going to hit a few reps with this bar with pretty good form. She's got a little butt wink at the end, so I would really stress some hamstring stretches for her, but I'm not here to critique her. But here, she's going to go right into a little plyometric box jump. It's simple stuff. But what this is doing is a couple different things. We're hitting a couple different energy systems there. And, sorry, hold on. And we're hitting a couple different energy systems there. One, we're getting just a plain lactic movement with that squat. And then all of a sudden we're switching the system to a CNS, which is going to incorporate a lot more central nervous system and fatigue on the body. So it's just a great way to kind of adapt our training, especially since, we are limited with some of the equipment we have. And it's a great tool. We can do it with push-ups. We can do it with air squats. We can even do it with deadlifts. There's a lot of workouts that I've done playing football, and we've done a lot of stuff like this. We would do deadlifts at the bottom of this hill and have to sprint up 20, 30 meters. It wasn't too bad, but the hamstring strain that it would cause and then the explosiveness, it was just a good turnaround for the central nervous system. And plus, it gave you great control of your body. And I'm going to turn it over to Ben here. I got a little more about the push up, but I know Ben's going to elaborate on this.
A couple of the things that we'll address with that, and we'll kind of look at it in a couple of different classifications. The progressions, if somebody has never utilized these tools that you speak of, we need to look at the progressions of them. And we'll talk about the box jump is probably the first one and the most simple one. Then you talked about the dropping off the box. So if you guys were going to look up additional information on these, you would look up depth drops and depth jumps. So the depth drop would just be the fall. You're not jumping off the box, you're just literally dropping. So when he talked about the nervous system and the reactions that go into it, you're causing or you're asking the body's nervous system to respond so quickly that it just stops the force of impact. So there's a ton of energy that goes into that movement. Then what Chris spoke of too was that depth drop right into the jump. And that is using that stored energy from the drop and into the explosive jump. A couple of things I want to expand on that is when you're in that, if you try that, if you do that, it won't seem like a lot, but it is a huge demand on the body. So the most I would say that you'd want to do if you did that would be 3 jumps, just because the force that it takes for the body to stop, decelerate, and reaccelerate. A couple of things to note about that too, and this will be specifically for, more so for females. We know that your design of your body will create some more valgus knee, and that's the caving in of the knee in that drop. So that's something I would say for our female population, if you're going to experiment with some of these depth drops and depth jumps, start at a much lower height and be wary, or maybe even video yourself and see what your knees do in that jump, because that known as the valgus knee or the caving in of the knee, as Chris is going to give us that demo. So a lot of times, Chris, could you show that video of that girl again? And I want everybody to kind of pay attention to when she does her jump. It happens pretty quickly, but her knees cave in. I think it was when she was bounding in that jump. So it's something that our females definitely need to pay attention to. And it's going to happen more so for females than it does for males. And that has to do with the hip and the knee angle. It's called the Q angle, actually. So pay attention to the Q angle here. And you can see it happens pretty quickly that her knees drive in, especially on that first one. So that's something that we'll want more of our female population to do. Or if you don't have very strong hamstrings, maybe your quadriceps are a little stronger than your hamstrings, those are something that you'll want to really, really pay attention to. If you also have a higher training age, you want to keep the jumps, the drops lower and build yourself into this, because it is such a demand, and it's not going to feel super demanding when you are in that moment, but it is something that you want to build and progress to. The other thing, he had talked about the jumps, a vertical jump, unless you have the technology or the equipment to test your vertical jumps, you can do broad jumps. And I like standing broad jumps because you can actually measure your output with that. As we talk time and time again about being involved in something that we want to see performance measures, you can measure those out and you can see your improvements in the jumps. Also some exposure to single leg jumps, like standing triple jumps and those kind of things, where we get completely out of our comfort zone of doing some unnatural single leg jumping. And that's some other things that get into that very explosive dynamic combination. But what Chris spoke of, and if you ever want to do more detailed information, it is called the French contrast method, or the French contrast training method. So there's a bunch of data out there that you can get a little bit deeper dive if we don't get enough information out here on this.
See, that's why I keep Ben around. That's why I keep him around. Great. He is so elegant in discussing this. I'm like, I want you to just fall off this box and rebound on the next one because I told you so. He'll tell you why. Love it. But no, the next one I wanted to go over is kind of like the bench press, and I'm glad Mackenzie's on here because she's always wanting to be a beefy weightlifter. So this would be a great one for you, Mac. Even if you're doing a barbell bench or a dumbbell, one of the things I used to do in football all the time, we would do 225 for a set of 20. And then we'd have to throw a 40-pound medicine ball back and forth and try to knock each other down with it. And that's what you do as an offensive lineman because you're playing with your hands all the time. But, I never put it together on why, but it gave you hand-eye coordination. It gave you explosion. And plus it gives you that dynamic piece after that lactic piece. And I love that stuff. And this is kind of what one of them is right here. Let me share this video with you kind of to tell you. He's going to hit a few sets here of just some dumbbell bench. And then he's going to go directly into like it doesn't have to be a clap and push up, but I would definitely, and we used to do this off the bench too to make it a little easier depending on your skill level. Like this would be more of advanced going to your full body, but you can do it off a bench, off the side of a bench like we would bench dips, and you're just going to face it. And it works great. I mean, it's a great tool, and it's good to switch it up every once in a while because I'm sure everybody's getting tired of floor presses and things. And these are just some tips and tricks on doing that. Let me see if I can find that medicine ball one. I knew I had it somewhere, but yeah, there we go. I love this. This used to be so fun, but of course I wasn't playing with nothing against a girl now, Mac, but playing against your buddies, all you wanted to do is try to knock them down. So it was a lot different. All right, does everybody see this now? All right. Super fun. Now, granted, you can throw it up and catch it yourself and really start working on some hand-eye coordination, or get you a super buddy. You got a kid laying around not doing anything, make them throw it back down at you. And,
that looks like a black eye.
Stand on a chair and just drop it to you. It could be a game and you could lose some teeth, but good thing we have Mackenzie on here. So in case so, we can have some emergency dental work. Who knows? But those are little things that can that makes the difference and recruits more central nervous system and get you, I don't want to say a better workout, just optimizing your workout for that day though. Create something different. It's fun to have those tips and tricks just stuck back into your locker or your treasure chest of exercises to kind of bring out every once in a while.
Do you think you guys are going to incorporate, that type of thing into some of the CrossFit routines, like not the remote routines, but just the regular CrossFit routines?
I mean, I don't see why we couldn't do those. I'm sure we've done that medicine ball before your time, Mac. It was probably over at the old spot at the first couple of years we was open. The sport of fitness changed. So of course our programming changed with it. And, it takes things like this for me to dig it out of my treasure chest and say, oh yeah, man, that used to work. It used to be so effective. Why are we not doing it? And it's good for myself because now we have to kind of invent new ways to hit those muscles in this dynamic form because we're not always going to be doing handstand push-ups because one, I don't have a handstand push-up wall that I really want to mess up right now. I bought a piece of plywood though, and I'm going to mess that bitch up. But I'm going to put it somewhere. I don't know yet. I'm probably going to put it on the side of the rig I made and just pray it holds my big ass. So, but you know, things like that. It's good to have those switches because that will translate to tricep strength, which is probably, I want to say, Ben can probably tell me more exactly, but I would say tricep strength is going to almost encompass a 50% of that handstand push-up, just because the range of motion on the shoulder, the tricep does the rest of the extension. It would probably be more like 60%. So tricep strength is very important on a movement like that. And there's no better way to get a dynamic press than that quick blast of energy and recruiting those muscles to fire that way. And it'll be more effective in the long run for us, because a kipping handstand push-up is kind of the same jolt that we're looking for from the energy leaving the hips and going through the body. So I've enjoyed it because I found exercises like this that I haven't utilized in years. You know, I've been training for 28 years. So we've done that when I was in high school. So Lord, that was 22 years ago. Shit. But that's how long it's been since I utilized anything like that. And you forget them. You know, they work great, but and takes things like this to bring it out, and it's been nice.
So a couple of things to hit on with that. The plyometric push-up, I would call that the explosive, powerful movement relative to the sport of weightlifting and the clean and the snatch. It's about as close as you can get comparable with the upper body and that plane of motion, and then of course the jerk and the push press and more of a vertical range of motion. And we'll kind of tie that together because Mac, last week you had talked about fear of developing some of the bad mechanics. When you look at some of the elite coaches in the sport of weightlifting, they talk about things as simple as a jump and a land. So when we talk about that plyo push-up, we can also talk about jumping squats. And you can do jumping squats with an empty barbell or extremely light load. And when you look at the mechanics, the biomechanics that and the physiology of that are super similar to a clean or a snatch. Whereas if I took a young boy or a young girl and didn't have the time with them, let's say we're training them over the summer for sports, you didn't have the time with them to put into developing the proper mechanics of a clean, of a snatch, of a jerk, I would have them do jumping squats and then building to jumping split squats to get some unilateral work, and then loaded jumping squats. And then on that same realm as the plyometric push-ups. And those will create some power and explosiveness when you don't have as much time to work on the mechanics. You just work on the good positioning of the body, knees in line with the feet, and good elbow position, good shoulder position to keep the shoulder safe. So all of those are fantastic tools. So when you're looking to utilize, maybe I don't have enough weight to do a heavy clean, or I am fearful of my mechanics, let's do some jumping. Plyometric push-up, let's do some explosive nature stuff there. And some other things that we haven't really talked about is utilizing tempo. And we talk often that the eccentric loading, or that slow negative, is where we get most of our strength from. Well, that concentric, or that pushing, is where we can release all of that stored energy that comes from that eccentric. So using these explosive movements with your body weight, using the tempo, something that we have done, I think, a few times, and I know Chris has done these quite a bit working with me, is say 1 1/4 squats, where you would do your back squat or your front squat, and you would come all the way down to full depth, back up about 1/4 of the way, and back down, and then completing that full extension. There's movements like that. And the idea, the goal with that is trying to highlight a position of weakness, or a position or a weaker range of motion in that movement pattern, and maximize that 1 1/4 there. Well, you could do 1 1/4 with dips. You could do 1 1/4 with push-ups. You can do 1 1/4 with pull-ups if you have access to a pull-up bar. So there's all sorts of just various little things that we can do and utilize. And tempo, tempo is so good because it can put us under tension a lot longer. So let's say you don't have a high volume of push-ups. Maybe you could do 2 or 3 so you keep your contraction number low. We talked a little bit last week about the rep budget, where you could keep your number low and you could lower, hold for 2 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever, and then come up slow. So there's all little things that we can do to add variety to our own training when we don't have access to a lot of things, or the partial range of motion and quarter range of motion and all these other kind of things, and the explosive nature. So there's 3 different things that we've touched on today that we can add to our repertoire that could give us enough of a variety within one session to the next session from week to week that are there for various reasons and to help us to progress. And moving forward, to address your question, is these some things that you would like to see in future program design? And I think it would be definitely something that we could put in from time to time. Everybody's going to adapt differently to the stimulus that we apply. So, and that's where it's super valuable for everybody to put their numbers into Wattifies or something that we can see the information and the data and the metrics on that. Are we progressing with these things? So you could be the outlier here, but if we see the bulk of everyone adapting appropriately to some of these new stimuluses, then it's something that we should keep in. And so that'll be some things that we'll definitely explore in the future.
See, exactly the reason I keep him around. It's beautiful, but all great things. I mean, I've loved I've loved the challenge of creating new stuff like this, just because, it brings out the best. It brings out the best in coaches. I couldn't tell you how many times that me and Ben's Marco Polo each other something stupid, but it turns into a conversation that made us better, because it's like, hey, I think this is my problem with some tissue tolerance on this movement. And he'll send me something right back. And it's just because I had to do a different movement in this time. We would have never known this if I wasn't challenged to do it in the workout. So it's everybody. I feel everybody's going to get better from this in the long run. I really do, because it's going to make us better. It's already made us better. So.
Something to add on, I thought about this too, is so last week we challenged some people to push cars, and I love seeing the videos. It was awesome. So if we think about this French contrast method, some of these differing plyometrics, you could push a car for 5 seconds and then you could sprint for 10 seconds. That would be another piece of variety that we have highlighted on today that we can add and build to last week's progression. So that's another thought there.
That'd be fun. What do you think, Mac? You think you could pull that off? You couldn't do it in Uggs.
I got to get a better car.
You got the best one.
Prius is like not gonna work out.
We should have pushed my car.
Yeah.
We'll
Amy
push
was
mine
like,
next
is
time.
it even moving? I just
What you can do then, you can flip the script, is find a rope or somehow tie it to yourself, tie it to the car, and then you can walk it like a sled drag.
I definitely have to find a different car, because you can't put a tow winch on a Prius.
You can a Tundra. You can a Tundra.
Yeah, you can a Tundra. If
Then
I can,
drop that rope and then sprint.
Well, there you
I'll
go.
make Ted trade cars with me one day.
So that's something else too, that if anybody has bands, you can do band resisted sprinting. I'm sure we can find a video of that, but that's something you'd have to do with your partner, significant other, whatever, and could do just some sprint work. And if you never felt the intense hamstring, just burn and nastiness of a band resisted sprint, it's a fantastic training tool. You want to make sure that you have a partner that can resist you. There has to be a level of communication there. And then you have to have a band thick enough that's not going to have so much elasticity that they're going to sprint away from you before resistance even kicks in. Are you looking for a video of that, Chris?
I'll pull something up here quickly.
But yeah, that's a really good one too. You have bands, fantastic tool to take advantage of.
All right, I'm finding it. Sorry.
No, you're good.
All right, is it on now?
Yep.
Oh man, come on. Told you I'm not good at this.
I'm impressed that you just did this. You've had to progress your technology skills here quite a bit.
That's made me better too.
So in this drill, we're going to be like the heavy
Come on.
work, do that. We're putting our weight. Is going to complete this drill.
Get the running.
Knees and
Come
work
on.
that acceleration phase through. So ready, go. Good resistance, driving through. Good. We'll let them finish out, and then they can walk back here, and they'll do it one more time for us. So like I said, we're just working the first acceleration, kind of band run, band start of the first 10 yards or so, and we'll watch them go one more time here. I just want my athletes really to focus on driving that knee up in the acceleration piston action, being a rod, pushing all that force backwards, whipping our arms, keeping our head in a neutral position, and just really working that power, force output in and out of the ground. So here we go, ready, go. Good lean, neutral head, and then she kind of stood up there a little bit. That's okay, we get to see that. She kind of yo-yoed there and went up. And that's
All right.
fine. That's what it would look like more down the road.
Ben, do you prefer traveling or standing in place?
Go into more of that top.
Say that again.
Do you prefer like a standing in place or a traveling banded run like that?
Traveling.
Okay.
Because the mechanics of the traveling run are going to be closer to a real life representation of what running and sprinting looks like. Standing in place, I don't think you're going to get the motor recruitment of the muscles that we're looking for in that big picture of that.
But just imagine there, Mac, in about, let's say, the first 10 yards, the athlete that's behind is going to release that band, and that other one's just going to shoot off. So the resistance is in the first 10 yards, and then the next 20 yards would be a free sprint. And then they would just switch back and forth 10 or 15 rounds. I wouldn't advise that to starting off if you and Amy go try to do this. But I would say more like a 5 to 10 sets. You go, she goes, and build your tolerance for it then. But you know, you got to just lay a cone out and say, or a t-shirt and say, okay, at this t-shirt, I'm going to release this band. So you know, and she knows that you're going to cut loose and turn it on, because it's going to be hard to sprint, but then all of a sudden it comes loose. And that's kind of like what Ben was calling the French,
Contrast.
French contrast method. It's the same concept of having that resistance and then exploding out of it.
Yeah, and for safety as well, you'll want to have those markers, because both you and your partner know when that resistance is going to stop, so that'll keep it safe for everybody. The person holding or resisting the band, they're going to work just as hard too, just in fighting that pull. So it has to be this level of communication with the two of you for safety. And then the other reason, not just the resisted and the unresisted, but that lets the body naturally decelerate coming after that band too. So that's also a safety thing as well.
You know, do you remember how I put that belt on you with a Velcro, and I banded you down to the ground, and we done some chest to bars that way? So that's what you would do essentially here. So you know, at that marker, you would release that Velcro on that belt, and Amy would just coast, and then you would take off, and vice versa. So you'd have that belt on, just rip that Velcro, because that band's going to be strong. It's going to pull it right off of you.
And these are all just little things that we can do to keep the body in variety, and that just will keep the nervous system, you know, the neural drive high. And that way, you know, all of this is when we get back to the gym, that we still have had no major loss, and that way we get a chance to come back pretty quickly when we get back under the barbell.
The exposure to those three things that we told you today is going to be great for Olympic weightlifting. Any kind of explosion we do, any kind of hip opening we do for the toe to bar, the chest to bar muscle ups, all the cleans, snatches, and the jerks, anything dynamic.
And I guess if we were to wrap this all up, then we would say for somebody who wouldn't have a chance to answer questions, keep the volume low in the beginning when you're experimenting and trying these things. And a lot of them won't feel that taxing and demanding on the body, but they really are, because they happen so quick. When we talk about the depth jumps and the depth drops, that's a split second, under a second that it happens. So it doesn't seem like it's doing much, but it really is. And when we talk about our training age and valgus knee and all these other little things, that it's just smart to slowly implement these things. And a lot of times when you walk away from doing some of these tasks, you should always walk away feeling like you could do a little bit more. And that would be the biggest thing that I would leave for anybody who listens to this call at a later moment that doesn't have a chance to ask questions, is if you do your back squat and your jumps, if you do a banded sprint, if you do some of these clapping push-ups, always leave a couple in the tank that you feel like you could do more reps or more sets, and just slowly track your progressions from session to session, from week to week.
Great. I loved it. Got anything, Mac?
No, I just ready to do some clapping push-ups.
I knew you would be. Amy, you got anything, babe?
No, I'm good.
You still
Ready
pedaling
for May.
away?
I'm ready for May 1st.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are too, babe.
So do you think it'll be like a limited number of people, like maybe a sign up type of thing, like Burn or something?
100%.
Okay. That's okay. I can do that.
Yeah, it's going to be it'll be a tough adjustment, but it's only going to benefit the gym and the coaches and the members. I think we will leave that implemented as a company standard of logging into every class now. It just it lets us know who's coming. It prepares us a little better for the class on you know, like when I know I got Mackenzie coming in, granted she comes in every day, so it's a bad example. But when I know she's coming in and she's got her knee problem today, I know that we're going to have to make a change on the squats. I have that already prepared, which makes me more effective in delivering the message to the rest of the class. And it streamlines the process for the coach. It just makes it all around better for everybody, because she's not guessing what she's going to do. I don't have to look like I don't know what the hell she's going to do. And it just it expedites the process.
And for you two ladies and anybody else that watches this video after this, and if you try these strategies and tips and tricks that we're giving you guys for this session, leave us some feedback on it. If it is something you ask the question about, is this something that we're going to see in the future design? Leave us some feedback. And if you like it, love it, then we'll definitely make sure it is something that we'll use in various exposure and various cycles moving forward. So I think that'll be pretty valuable for us to know, that make sure that we can keep continuing to provide the coaching and the service and the development that we want everybody to have as individuals and athletes.
I feel like we used to sign in for CrossFit a long time ago. We kind of got away from it. We used to.
Yeah, we did. It'll be an adjustment period, but it'll be a great reset button to get everybody on the same page and get everybody in the same direction. So
I mean, I can't just go to Mac's office and just walk in whenever I want and get her to clean my teeth. Like, we need a level of professionalism and accountability. And, you
And
know,
if you're my cousin.
one athlete that's new or doesn't move as well or is more, I guess, high maintenance, they can take up to what, 8, experienced athletes can take up from a coaching and energy expenditure out. But so it's just going to make us better. And we can actually justify the money we're spending on Wi-Fi for once. What's that, Mac?
Just to have like some kind of possible, honestly, like date to be like, yeah, this will all you gotta do is make it to May 1st. Not like, to this point it's just been, well, it's indefinite, like who knows. And now, and maybe it isn't. I mean, I understand maybe May 1st won't be, but just right now that's like, it's something I just need to have, like this isn't indefinite,
Yeah, even if that doesn't follow through on May 1st, there's still a definite light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And it's much sooner than what it could be.
Yeah,
And if it's a first come, first serve, I'm sure a bunch of us wouldn't have any issue camping outside of the gym to ensure like a concert ticket.
Be like Black Friday at Thunder Valley.
It would be. That would be awesome.
Yeah, everything's trending well. Like, I don't foresee, unless things just have a complete reversal while we're not open middle of May at the latest. So, but anyway, we're about to get these quarantine pounds off pretty soon. So
You're not.
it can only help. I mean, it can't hurt to get back to the gym.
I probably work out more, now than I did, but I'm eating so much more. It's still a net gain, but not in a good way.
Yeah. I won't have to babysit 2 kids anymore. So, I mean, I'll, without a doubt, burn more calories. So.
I don't know. Chasing 2 kids around, that's got to burn some damn calories.
Yeah, for sure.
Not accounting for the cortisol release of stress that you're getting.
Mm-hmm.
But I enjoyed it, guys. Anything else, Mac, Amy? I appreciate y'all actually staying on. I feel kind of useful today now. I had 2 people.
Oh my gosh, you guys don't know how useful you are in my life. I appreciate it.
This is what's keeping me sane.
And Shirley's.
Yeah.
And chocolate.
Truly chocolate. I can't wait. I tell you what, I'm excited about it, and it's kind of scary. I'm excited for the quarantine memes to start coming out after everybody gets back to work.
Oh man, those are gonna be good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Really done like Truly and chocolate. There's got to be a survival pack, Truly and chocolate quarantine. Should be a combo pack, like a bag of Reese's and a 6-pack.
It should be.
And a roll of toilet paper.
I went to one shop recently, and they were actually selling rolls of toilet paper for 99 cents.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah.
Well, I seen that guy out in Tennessee. He's getting prosecuted for buying all that hand sanitizer and selling it on eBay.
I know he had to donate all of it, but now he's getting prosecuted.
Yes, that's what they're going to prosecute him too.
But
That's terrible.
it is.
The man's just trying to make a buck. He's just hustling. Shit.
Well, he violated the first rule of don't be stupid. Don't give your first name to the New York Times reporter. I mean,
Yeah, and don't put your crap on social media.
yeah,
Don't
like
pose in front of your stash.
don't stand in front of your stash and pose. For I mean,
I didn't know he'd done all that. See,
oh God, like I mean, he just was dumb. He was.
Yeah.
There are plenty of other people who did what he did, and they're not getting prosecuted. And they don't have death threats because they didn't pose for a picture. He's like the tiger.
Yeah, he kind of deserved it.
Sanitizer.
well, Ben, anything else, Bubby?
Yeah, man, I think we brought it all home.
All right.
Yeah, this was great.
Well, I hope it helps. I want to see you two doing the videos now. That's my challenge. By next Wednesday, I want you and Amy doing something with the rubber band. Don't smack each other in the head with it. But
Practice one
If
and
we
two.
get some sunshine weather, I'll try anything you guys throw at us.
I want to see y'all drag the Tundra. That's what I want.
We'll
Got
drag
two of them.
That's what we'll do. We'll drag the Tundra. We'll like I've got some tank straps. We'll strap it up to the tow winch and just drag it down the tree streets.
All right, that sounds good.
All right, gang. Y'all have a great day. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Nice.
See ya.